Hello and welcome to the Local Leaders Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Johnson. The Local Leaders Podcast provides a platform for successful business owners to share their stories, their experiences, their advice, and their ideas in order to help our listeners achieve more success in their business and in their lives. Get ready, another great show is coming up. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Local Leaders Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Johnson, and we're excited to have you here, our listeners, for another great episode. And we're excited also to introduce to you Brittany Bivins. Did I get Bivins right? I forgot to ask you that, Brittany.
Yes, you did.
Okay, we got Brittany with us here today from Peach City Brewing out of Gaffney, South Carolina. Welcome to the Local Leaders Podcast, Miss Brittany.
Thank you, Jeff.
We are, like I said, we're really stoked about getting to know you guys and kind of helping get the word out about what Peach City Brewing is. And you guys have not opened the doors yet and are getting really, really close. So, as you prepare to come into Gaffney and bring, all the exciting brews and concoctions and things that you're working on there, we want to make sure we get everybody aware of what you are and what you're all about. So if you wouldn't mind, just tell us a little about, your co-founders and Peach City Brewing.
Yeah. So myself, Aaron, Alex, and Adam, we've all worked together over the years. We all started working together around 2014, 2015, back at D9. And then we regrouped again with Peach City up in Charlotte, with Salty Parrot up in Charlotte. And then we decided kind of to go our own direction and start our own thing. So the idea for Peach City in Gaffney came about over the summer of last year when we were all just kind of trying to figure out what's our next step, where are we going to go? And we decided on small town tap rooms, and we landed on Gaffney, which is known for its giant peach water tower. So that's where we landed on the name Peach City.
Love it. Yeah. It's an obviously great name, and everybody kind of knows where you are in the area. If you're going down the highway, everyone's seen the big peach. And now we've got a reason to stop. Even though there was plenty to begin with, now we've got an even better reason to stop off when we're rocking down, 40 or 85? It's 40.
85.
85. Okay, thank you for straightening me out. But yeah, that's an awesome to hear that you guys were able to come together and put together this business. And again, as I said, you haven't quite gotten it opened yet, but I think you're really close. You want to give us a little background on kind of some of the challenges, delays, issues that you kind of run into with getting it started, because you're not the first. And maybe we can help some other people avoid some of those same mistakes.
Yeah, so we acquired the building August of last year. And then there's a process you have to go through where you have to put a sign on the window when you're going to be selling alcohol for 45 days. Anybody can contest it if they'd like to. So that put us on a pause in the beginning because we had to make sure nobody had a problem with us putting an alcohol store in the middle of downtown Gaffney, and nobody contested. So then we had to move forward to, you've got to get your safety plan. You've got to get plumbing and electrical licenses. The building that we acquired used to be an old jewelry store. It was Rob's jewelry store for years. So we had to cut into the floors, install the plumbing, get all of that stuff done. And that takes a while, especially with the permitting process, especially with COVID and the way that things have been. So our original open date was going to be in November of last year, but we are obviously not there. So the delays have come, but we are so much closer than we were 3 months ago.
Yeah, it's I know it can be frustrating, especially as the owners, and it seems like all you're doing is pouring funds in, and you can't get anything back out yet until you get those doors open. So I know it's been a challenge for you. And you guys are all of you pretty much working working full time now to get the business up and running, or are you still running other jobs?
So Aaron has another job. Alex, Adam, and myself are all, our main focus right now is just Peach City. We've been down there the majority of our time trying to get stuff together. This week's been a little light because we've been waiting on the electricity to get put in, but we're doing, we put up the walls ourselves, we're building the bar ourselves, we're building the cold room ourselves. So we're putting in some hours down there.
Oh, wow. Yes, you are doing a lot of physical labor. And you know what? It's funny, but so many people that I've talked to have had a similar experience in that, especially the first one and maybe even the second location tends to be a lot of self work, and the remodeling and the building and painting and, everything else. And but hopefully, as those become more and more successful and you start to expand, you'll get to the point to where you can actually pay someone else to do it.
Yes.
Would that be nice?
That'll be a good day.
Yes, absolutely will. And so give us a little feel for what you're going to be all about once you do get open. And I know it's you're brewing beer, and I think you're going to have some pizza, if I remember our conversation right, a little bit of food. So just kind of give our listeners and people in the area an idea of what to expect when they walk in.
Yeah. So it's going to be, laid back tap room. Think your typical bar, no liquor, but we're going to have wine. We're going to have beer. All of our beer is going to be made in-house. We've got our system on its way. So we are excited to get that in-house. We're going to be doing a limited menu. It'll be all pizza. So we're thinking 3 set pizzas and then 2 rotating, change them up every month to keep a little bit of flow going. And then we will have our year-round brews, your typicals like a lager, a pale, an IPA, that kind of general thing that people will drink all year. And then, in the winters, you'll get your nice heavy stouts. In the summers, you'll get your nice light springtime sours. So we've got a lot of stuff in the works.
And it sounds like now are you a craft beer aficionado as well?
I love craft beer.
Well, it certainly helps when you're going into that business to be a big fan. And I know there's a lot of people out there that do love it. How's I'm not that familiar with the Gaffney itself. Are there other breweries there? Kind of what's the landscape look like?
So the reason we chose Gaffney is because we are going to be the only brewery within a 20-mile radius of where we put our location.
Got it.
Charlotte's kind of overrun, Greenville, Spartanburg, they've all got tons of breweries, but Gaffney, you've got your local wing spot, your local barbecue spot, but there's not really a craft brewery around to be found. And when we were going out to eat after our work days and stuff like that, I noticed, you'll go to stores or you'll go to restaurants and there'll be your Yinglings, your Blue Moons, your Budweiser, all your, normal stuff you can get everywhere. But I wasn't seeing any craft beer. So I'm super excited to get some craft into their market and see how Gaffney responds.
Well, I'm sure it'll respond very well, and I'm sure there's a lot of people sitting on their hands waiting for you guys to get this thing open and get it running, and looking forward to your getting started just as much as you guys are. So hopefully we'll get a lot of great community support, and folks will come out and give you all a try. I love the fact that you've got food, and then like a lot of breweries, you can always supplement with food trucks and things like that, should that ever be an issue. But with the capability of having the pizzas and a small menu, I think that should cover you there. Have y'all thought about, do you plan to do like a mug club? I know a lot of breweries do that.
So it's similar to a mug club, but not quite. We've got our Peach City Beer Club, which it's $100 to join, or if you were part of our investment campaign, which we'll talk about later, if you invested over $500, you're automatically a member for the year. But it comes with, you get a Peach City hat, you get a Peach City t-shirt. We run specials that you can only get if you're part of the beer club. You can do a 20-ounce glass for the price of a 16. So, and it lasts all year. So if you come in enough, it's definitely worth it. I mean, the t-shirt and the hat alone cover half of your dues.
Yeah.
So that's a fun little thing that we're doing. And we do have our Founders Club as well. So anybody who put in over $1,000 is going to get a little nameplate marker. We're thinking about, we were going to do a wall, but I think we're going to do them around the bar. So it's kind of like your own personal seat.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. Now, and I mean, I think that's a good segue. We can talk about some challenges here in a minute, but you guys had a very creative approach to solving a big entrepreneurial problem, which is capital. I don't know if you and your partners are all young or not, but whether you're young, whether you're old, raising capital and having the money to do the build out and buy all the equipment, it's a very expensive process. So I'd love to have you share what you did to create funding for this venture, if you wouldn't mind kind of taking us through that whole process.
Yeah, of course. So we found a platform called Mainvest, which is a really different approach to crowdfunding. So unlike a GoFundMe where people just put money in and that's the end of it, that's the last they see of it, it's an investment style approach to crowdfunding. So whatever you invest, we promise back a 1.6 times investment multiple. So you put in 100, you'll get back 160, but it is over time. So once we start gaining revenue is when our first quarter will start. And it's revenue based, not profit based. So you don't have that long gap of the in between of waiting to see whether this company is going to succeed or not. As soon as we start gaining revenue, you start seeing a return. So it's paid out quarterly to everybody. It is paid out 2% of our revenue from the quarter, and it gets dispersed between all of the people who put money in on Mainvest, equivalent to their percentage of our total. And that lasts until 2029, or if we, hopefully it's over before that. The sooner we pay them back, the quicker it's over. And I would love to get everybody paid back as fast as possible. But yeah, it's a really cool platform. So it gives you that opportunity to, we have an idea, we know it's going to work, we know this is great, but we don't have the capital going in to do all the things that we've got going on inside of our heads. Yeah. So we did end up raising about $33,000 on Mainvest, and that is the capital, the majority of the capital that we have used up until this point, and we plan to use until we open and start bringing some revenue in.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing, and I was not familiar with it the first time you mentioned it, and wanted to check it out and learn a little bit more, because you're exactly right. It's a different way to crowdfund. It's more of a guaranteed return. I know guarantee is not the right word because nothing in life is guaranteed, but it is an interesting way to go about it, and it seems like it'd be a great plan for any of the entrepreneurs out there who are listening who are looking to raise some capital. How much effort and how much time did it take you guys to get to that point, and how did you kind of market it to get people to start funding you?
So Aaron and I kind of worked together. We got some pictures of some of the brews that we've been working on. We put our pitch out there. Just kind of told people what we were about and what we hope to do and what we hope to bring to Gaffney. And most of our support has been local. So we've gotten a huge amount of support from the local community. A lot of people are really excited to see a brewery come in, to see downtown grow. And that was kind of our focus, was local to the people who are going to be coming into this tap room. Hey, do you want to help us get it started? And we'll be here for you the whole time.
Yeah. A great way to do it. Did you find that you were able to raise some money from folks that you didn't know, or did it end up being more the friends and family kind of thing?
We actually had no friends and family involved in this one. It was all local support from the community. And surprisingly, it is a national, it might be an international platform, but I know it's national. We had some support coming in from all over the country. People who were probably never going to step foot in the building saw promise in this and wanted to make that return. So we've got people, I want to say one of them, a couple from like out west, a couple from down in Florida. That was the most surprising part to me, was the people who were probably never going to step foot in this brewery who wanted to support us.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And again, as investors, it's a great place to look as well if you want to help aspiring entrepreneurs get things off the ground. I'm assuming that that's the platform is kind of based around that 1.6 multiple for everything. Is that accurate?
I believe you pick your multiple. I'm trying to remember. This was a few months ago.
That's okay.
Because for the first 10,000, it was actually 1.75 as an incentive to get those first funds coming in. Uh-huh. The way the human brain works, people are much more likely to give money to something that they see other people have already done. So that little bit extra incentive was to help us get our feet off the ground.
Yeah, I like that. It's a great thing. And again, it's called, I just wrote it down, Mainvest for all of our listeners. And you know, as I said, if you're looking to get something off the ground, you need some capital. It's a great plan, a great way to get going. And I think a lot of that crowdfunding tends to be friends and families. And although I'm sure that there's other people involved, I really like what you guys did. It's very creative, and congratulations to you for getting this far, right?
Thank you. Yeah, and the people who work for Mainvest are very involved in the process. They would constantly email us, talk to us, give us ideas about how to push the campaign, because they only last for 60 days. So you've got 60 days to bring in as much capital as you can. And there is a minimum on there. So like if we hadn't reached 25,000, everyone would have been refunded what they put in. So I am very thankful to all the people who put in money and got us over that 25,000 mark.
Well, yeah, I'm sure you are, and this is a great platform to thank them. So, for all of you guys that are listening or are a part of it, congratulations and enjoy it, especially those in the Gaffney area who are able to get out and enjoy having a meal and some great brews or wine with you guys. Do you have an opening date in mind yet?
Tentative is the third weekend of February. I would like to get a little bit further before I completely announce the open date, just because I want to make sure everything's going to fall into place. We don't have to change it once it's announced, but tentative third week in February.
That's just like me. I'm always pushing for more and trying to get commitments out of people. But yeah, you still got a good 3 or 4 weeks and a lot of things to get done, weather permitting and resource committee with having the resources available to get the electricians and get the inspections and all that kind of stuff done. So you never can be until you get really close. It's really hard to tie it down. But that's exciting, and I know we're all looking forward to it, and I know you guys are as well. How about from have you begun kind of to staff up the business itself yet, or are you going to need more staff than you guys that are involved in founding the business?
So for at least the first 6 months to a year, we plan on doing it all ourselves between the 4 of us. Our long-term plan is to continue this idea of brewery tap rooms in small towns and expand from there. So eventually, once we do get to a point where this place is profitable and working well, we want to find a good staff from the local community, get the place up and running to a point where we are comfortable with the people in place to keep it running for us so that we can branch out and do it all over again.
Yeah, well, and it'll get easier every time you do it, hopefully, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think that's a great idea, a great business plan to kind of look for areas like Gaffney that do not have a brewery, because, it's such a popular place nowadays. And hey, I meant to ask you, do you guys plan to do live stuff there as well? Music, any of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I'm not sure of the exact schedule for it yet, but I know I want to get a local band in for a grand opening for sure, and then look at what days are our busiest, kind of maybe some bands from the local community that people really like to bring people into the tap room. It's definitely on our radar, but nothing's in the books yet.
Understood. And again, it's exciting times that we're looking for. And I'm just glancing over here at my notes to see kind of where we want to go now. Any other major challenges that you wanted to speak on in regards to getting this thing off the ground? I'll ask you that first, and then I'll ask you about how you guys are kind of divvying up your roles and responsibilities as founders.
Honestly, the biggest thing that has been an issue for us is just the timing not being what we expected. We thought we would be open a couple of months ago, and since we've been set back, it is really just that capital. Rent's been due for a couple of months that we expected to already have revenue coming in, so we're getting kind of lower on funds. We realized some things cost a little bit more than we thought they would, but we've kind of worked around those. So like ordering t-shirts with your company logos on them are actually a lot more expensive than we thought they would be. Yeah. So our workaround is we ordered a t-shirt press, and instead of bringing them in already done, we're bringing in blanks, we're getting our HD transfers, and we're printing our shirts ourselves. We found ways to work around the lack of capital, and it's surprising how little you can have and still get your dream through as long as you persist.
Yeah, well, I think that's a great lesson for everyone out there. And if you got a blank checkbook, it's easy and simple to go buy things. But just like you're doing a lot of the manual labor and work with getting the building renovated and ready to go, you're having to get creative on the marketing side as well, and get into the t-shirt press business. And that'll hopefully sustain you for some time and be able to help cut a few costs and allow some of that more of that annual club fee to be able to go toward other things as opposed to t-shirts and hats. So very, very creative. Any other super creative things for cost savings so far? I always like to push and see if I can find any other good ideas that we can all use. How about your social media stuff? Have you dug into that yet? Are you doing it yourself? Are you kind of waiting back until you're launching? What's your plan on that end?
I launched our social medias at the end of November, around the end of November. We use them to help push our Main Best campaign. And then now I've been using them to upload progress pictures and just kind of communicate with people about our open date, because this is why I won't release another one, because we had originally released an open date. So just a way to communicate with people about, hey, we're not here yet, but wait on us, we're coming.
Yeah, we're coming. Are you doing like any videos of construction and things like that to kind of create that excitement?
More pictures than videos, honestly. It's real loud in that little room. So the videos are not quite as good, but I've been doing some pictures, the guys getting the walls framed up and painting the floors. I've managed to stay in the background of all of them so far, but I'm sure I'll end up in the foreground at some point. Yeah, we need to get a hard hat on you and a hammer and make sure that we catch some of those for prosperity's sake. And who knows, years down the road, y'all might have them hanging up on the wall. Now, one thing that actually worked really well for us in Gaffney is I reached out to the local newspaper, the Gaffney Ledger, and we did an interview with them back in November, which reached a lot more people than the social media had in the beginning, just because we didn't have a ton of followers, and two, I realized that most of Gaffney does read the local newspaper, which isn't a thing that I was used to in Charlotte.
Yeah.
But it worked really well for our crowd. So you just you have to focus on who you're trying to market to, and then what tactics will work for those people.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And who would have thought that newspapers were still such a good idea? And it does make sense. And there's still big business around press releases and things like that. So a lot of people do see these things, and especially these local interest stories. With new business coming into town, new investments, et cetera. So we can't always forget traditional media, and good job to you guys for not missing out on that opportunity. And now look at us, we're doing podcasts. So
we're coming at it from every angle.
that's the trick, I think. And if we share anything with our listeners, we certainly want to help all of our listeners succeed and have more success, and leave no stone unturned in your quest to get your name out and to stay on the, top of the consumer's mind or your customer's minds, so that they remember you when it comes time to eat, drink, and have fun. You want to make sure that they're coming to Peach City Brewing again in Gaffney, South Carolina. I didn't throw the website name out there for our podcast listeners, but it's peachcitybrewing.com. I noticed you did have the website up. I'm sure that there's probably more coming as you get closer to opening, with more pictures and menus and things like that. But everything's there that you need to be able to reach these guys. You can contact them. You can call them. They've already posted hours. For once the business opens again, hopefully third week-ish of February. We really look forward to that happening. So how are you guys, and I want to talk about the founders, all you guys that are the owners of the business. Do you each have kind of your alley of things that you take care of so far? Are you really collaborating and kind of doing everything together, or have you kind of found your sweet spots?
We definitely have our sweet spots, and everything else kind of flows. So Aaron's our visionary. This was all a seed of his mind. This was, he loves to dive right into things, and this was his idea, and we jumped on board with it. So he was a founder of D9 when it first opened. So he's done a lot of this before. And he handles more of our books, the back end, making sure the bills get paid, making sure we've got, stuff for permits going in the right direction. He's kind of the glue that holds this whole thing together, if you will. I'm more of our people person. I've my degrees in psychology. I've been in the service industry since I was 16 years old, bartending for the past 7-8 years. So I handle more of our PR, our social medias, t-shirts, hats, communication with the general public about what's going on. And I will be the face you see behind the bar all weekend long for the foreseeable future. Adam and Alex are our brew team. So they've been brewing, I think both of them have been brewing for over 2 years. I think Alex has been brewing for closer to 5. But they've known each other since high school, I think, and they're a wonderful team. They work together so well. So they handle, playing with the recipes, getting the beer keg, getting the kegs clean, figuring out what products we need to bring out for people, taking care of inventory, all of the back end stuff like that. And then everything else just kind of flows. If we need this here, we need that here. Adam also is running he's starting up like a tap handle business. So he does 3D printing. In the past 2 breweries that we've all worked in, he printed all of our tap handles, and he's printing all of our tap handles for Peach City. He's working on getting some flight boards 3D printed for us. So none of that is anything that I understand, but he's really good at it. And that's kind of what he's been running out of for the past few months, running out of his home with 2 little kids running around. So
Oh, wow.
He's got his hands full. But yeah, we've got a lot of different stuff on board, and we all just kind of help each other where we can and do our part.
Well, that's all you can ask, and it does seem to go that way when you have partners in a business. They tend to have kind of their own lanes, that things that you like to do or you're better at, you tend to take on, and but then there's that whole shared responsibility for all the other things that might otherwise fall through the cracks that have to be taken care of each day. But I mean, it sounds like you got a great team. You got the financial side, you got the front of the house, you got the back of the house kind of covered. All is in order now. We just got to get that building ready.
Yes.
So I know we talked about the future, and again, we're probably a little premature with going too far with that, but I would love to just hear kind of what you guys are thinking long term. I know you're talking about going to other towns that are similar to Gaffney. Any other thoughts on growth and what that might look like?
Well, definitely, obviously we want to get our tap room thriving, but outside of that, South Carolina operates on a strictly 3-tier system. So for us to get any beer sold outside of our tap room, we have to pick up a distributor, or have to be picked up by a distributor, I guess. So we want to get into some of the local bars, some of the local, and expanding out of Gaffney as well. But at first, get into some of the local bars. We plan on hitting distro with kegs in the first 6 months, and then probably about a year out on package. So that's when you'll start to see it in your Ingles, in your Bilos, whatever your local grocery store is, that kind of thing. Maybe the C stores on the corner, and then just generally just packaged product wherever you might be able to find it. Yeah, so that is our first step for expansion for this place.
Well, and that's the logical places to go with basically wholesaling and retailing, which is what we're talking about here. And again, each each state has its own laws around that. How do you go about finding a distributor for those of us who don't know?
Every time I've done it in the past, you do your research, you figure out what people distribute in your area, or from your area, more like. And then you just reach out to them. You send a few emails, you place a few calls, you send them some information about yourself. And if they reach back, you set up a meeting, they taste your product, they decide if they want to pick you up or not, and you move from there. So it is definitely the distributor's choice over the brewery's choice. You know, you have to kind of sell yourself to them in order for them to say, okay, we can sell your product.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was gathering from what you were saying. It's not like it's an automatic thing. So you've got to have a good product and a good plan.
Yeah, you have to have good product and you have to believe in it and be behind it, because if you don't believe in your product, who will?
Yeah, and I'm sure they probably worry about supply chain as well, and your ability to hit the numbers and deliver what you promise and all that kind of stuff too.
Well, and that's the big thing with distro too, because if you start going into distro and they say, okay, we want 16 kegs of this and you've got 12, well, that's already a problem, because if they want more than you can supply them, you're not going to be the person that they're trying to push in the market, because they don't know if they can get it from you again.
Yeah.
So being able to fulfill orders is not a big problem, I guess, but being able to fulfill orders is the most important thing before reaching out to those people, because you don't want to burn those bridges.
And is that distribution requirement? I mean, once you have a distributor, does that get you only South Carolina, or do some distributors, can they go outside of a single state?
My understanding of it is that you have to have a distributor in each state. So like North Carolina's laws are different. You can self-distribute from the brewery up to 100,000 barrels, but that's only if you're based in North Carolina. Like I couldn't take our beer from South Carolina over the border and sell it to your bar down the street.
Got it.
So you have to, and some different companies like Reyes is very, very popular and a huge company all up and down the East Coast. But they have different branches in different states. And my understanding of it is you have to sign agreements per state, and not only per state, but per county, because you could have multiple distributors in the same state, but they can only cover certain counties. And that's an agreement with them to where, okay, you sell us here, nobody else can.
Gotcha. So yeah, it's interesting and a learning experience. And for those that are listening who are interested in getting into the craft brewing business, there's a lot more to it than just being able to make a good beer. You got to have a way to sell it, right? Which is hence the tap rooms, hence the distributors, and then the packaging is kind of a final piece to get it into the retail channels. Again, is your brewing capability, out of the gate, do you have a lot of extra capacity, or will that be something you'll have to grow along the way?
It'll have to grow along the way. We're starting small. Our first system, it's on its way. It should be here in the next about week. But again, with the supply chain right now, everything's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
It will be able to do 20 barrels a month in the beginning, which is really not that much, especially when you're talking about distribution. But as we gain more funds, we can bring in more fermenters, we can upgrade our system to a larger system, and we'll be able to push out more product.
Yeah. And I mean, that obviously is the right way to start. You don't want to have extra capacity and be paying for that right out of the gate. You got to build up to it. And it's just kind of a supply and demand thing that you'll manage. Hopefully the take rate, or you'll have customers drinking a whole lot of your product, and you'll have to ramp that up really quickly. And then it becomes a matter then again of capital, right? As you start to grow, and capital becomes another issue. And can you go back to Mainvest if you needed to? Is that an option?
Yeah, so actually, most of the companies that use Mainvest are already established companies who, they've got 2 years worth of earnings reports to show you, and oh, we want to expand and add this tap room, or we want to expand and get a bigger system. We want to renovate. Things like that are most of what the Mainvest platform is used for. So we definitely have the option to go back to that and say, hey, we're ready to expand, but we're going to get the people we currently owe their investment back to paid off before we even think about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Understood. Well, it's exciting. It's really interesting to, be able to talk to you and learn more about what Peach City Brewing is doing and kind of the whole process. And actually, I mean, you said initially y'all started talking about this, what, a year ago? And look where
It was
you are
over the
today.
summer of last year. Yeah. Summer 2021. Yeah.
So, I mean, it has summer of 2021. So it hadn't even been 7 or 8 months
Right.
since this thing was kind of conceived, and you're almost ready to launch. So that, I mean, I think that's pretty impressive. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I know you're super excited. I know our listeners, especially those in the Gaffney area, are thrilled about having you guys. And again, for our listeners who aren't viewing this and seeing your website, it's peachcitybrewing.com. And we are talking to Brittany Bivins of Peach City Brewing in Gaffney, South Carolina, 310 North Limestone Street. Not open today, but hopefully within about the next 30 days, we should be getting this bad boy up and running and starting to be able to enjoy craft beer in Gaffney, South Carolina. Hey, any final thoughts, ideas, advice, anything that you might share with would-be craft brewery entrepreneurs who are thinking about getting into this game? Don't. Don't come to Gaffney.
Do it. Don't love it. I will say that for sure. Do not do it if you are not in it for the love of the game, because you won't like what you find. But if you do love it and you want to get into it, by all means, push through, push forward, but make sure you have that capital available going in, because what you think is going to open in November might open at the end of February.
Yeah, exactly. And, when you're building out those pro formas and kind of looking at future revenue and expenses and all that, a month or two off is a big difference
Right.
To a budget. So you're exactly right. Again, you guys have shoestringed this thing yourselves and went out and got creative and found new ideas and new ways of attracting funds to be able to get it started. And I'm sure it's going to be a huge success. And again, we want to thank you, Brittany, for being on our podcast today and sharing your story and your co-founder stories of Peach City Brewing with myself and our listeners, and sharing kind of the learnings that you've already had coming from putting this business together. So thank you very much for being a part of Local Leaders Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Jeff.
Hey, we are again super excited to have had you on today, and again, for all our listeners, we're glad you're here for another episode here with Peach City Brewing out of Gaffney, South Carolina. Go see them, check them out online. Before you know it, maybe you can order online, once they start packaging and all that down the road. But a lot of great things to look forward to, and we're thrilled to again have had you on. So thank you so much, Brittany. And to all our listeners, thank you for joining us for another episode of Local Leaders Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Johnson, and we'll see you on the next show.